All right, today we are jumping headfirst into Cal Newport's incredible book, Deep Work. This isn't just another productivity guide, it's really a blueprint for how to do amazing, focused work in a world that seems dead set on distracting us 24/7. So let's get into it.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Think about your last workday. Were you busy? Jumping between emails, Slack messages, back-to-back calls, or were you actually productive? Did you make real, solid progress on the things that actually matter? That feeling of being totally swamped but not getting anything important done? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to tackle.
So to really get this, you have to understand that Newport splits all work into two buckets. Over here, you've got shallow work. This is all the logistical stuff, right? Answering emails, posting on social media, the kind of tasks you can do while you're half distracted. But on the other side, you've got deep work. This is the hard stuff, the cognitively demanding work that requires every ounce of your focus. And here's the key. Shallow work pays the bills, but deep work, that's what builds your career. That's where the magic happens.
And here's Newport's official definition. Let's look at the key parts. Distraction-free concentration. That is non-negotiable. It has to push your cognitive capabilities to their limit, so yeah, it's supposed to feel hard. But look at the payoff. It creates new value, improves your skill, and is hard to replicate. In an age of AI and automation, that last part, being hard to replicate, is your ultimate job security.
Okay, so now that we know what deep work is, let's dig into why it's so incredibly valuable. Seriously, Newport makes the case that this isn't just a nice-to-have skill, it's a modern-day superpower.
He basically boils down success in today's economy to two things. Number one, can you learn complicated stuff fast? And number two, can you produce work at an absolutely elite level, meaning both top quality and high speed? Guess what? Both of those abilities depend entirely on your capacity for deep, uninterrupted work.
And Newport says it right here. It's so simple but so profound. Peak performance doesn't come from multitasking or being constantly connected. No way. It comes from carving out big chunks of time to focus on one and only one important thing.
So if deep work is this golden ticket, you'd think our offices would be designed to help us do it, right? Well, this is where we get to the great paradox of the modern workplace.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why does it feel like our work culture, from our office layouts to our software, is almost actively working against the very thing that produces the most value? It just doesn't make sense.
Newport points to a few major culprits. Think about it. Open offices, sold as these amazing hubs for collaboration, but what they really are is a factory for constant interruptions. Then you've got instant messaging, which has created this expectation that you have to reply right now, completely shattering your focus. And don't even get me started on the pressure to be constantly present and building a brand on social media, which just pulls you away from doing the actual work.
And all of this taps into a sneaky psychological glitch. The principle of least resistance. When faced with a choice, our brains will almost always drift toward the easier, more visible task. It feels so much better to clear 20 emails and get that little hit of accomplishment than it does to tackle page one of a really difficult, important project.
This creates a huge cultural problem. You see, for most of us knowledge workers, productivity is invisible. You can't see me thinking hard about a strategy. So what do we do instead? We perform busyness. We pack our calendars, we fire off emails at all hours. We use being busy as a substitute for being productive, even when it's killing our ability to do real, valuable work.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. But the best part of this book is that it gives us a real, practical toolkit to fight back. It all comes down to 4 clear, actionable rules.
Here's the game plan. First, you have to intentionally structure your life to work deeply. Second, and this one's a bit weird, you have to learn to embrace boredom. Third, you've got to get ruthless with your tools, which for many of us means quitting social media. And finally, you have to wage a war on the shallow tasks that are eating up your time.
So rule number 1 is all about making deep work a regular practice. You can't just hope it happens. The easiest way to start is with what Newport calls the rhythmic approach. Just schedule it. Put a recurring 90-minute deep work block in your calendar every single day and protect it like it's the most important meeting you have. And create a little ritual to kick it off. Like you clear your desk, you put your phone in a drawer, and you close all your browser tabs. These little cues tell your brain, okay, it's time to focus.
Rule number 2 is about training your brain. See, your ability to focus is like a muscle. And every time you pull out your phone because you're bored for 3 seconds in an elevator, you're weakening that muscle. So how do you train it? Here's a wild idea. Schedule your internet time.
Plan specific times when you're allowed to mindlessly browse. Outside of those blocks, you stay offline. It forces your brain to get comfortable with being bored, which is exactly the skill you need to focus for long periods.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? We've literally rewired our brains to crave constant distraction. Embracing boredom is the act of rewiring it back. It's about letting your mind just be for a minute, without stimulation, so that when you need it to focus, it actually can. Rule number 3 is about changing how you think about technology. Most of us have what he calls the any benefit mindset. We hear about a new app and think, oh, that could be kind of useful for X, and we sign up. Newport says we need to adopt a craftsman approach. A master woodworker doesn't have 1,000 tools, they have a few, perfect tools that they've mastered. You should only use a digital tool if its benefits massively outweigh its negatives for your most important goals.
And that brings us to rule number 4, drain the shallows. This is about being absolutely ruthless with low-value tasks. And the best way to understand this is with the story of a software company called 37 Signals. You probably know them as Basecamp, and what they did with the 4-day work week.
So they decided to just work one less day a week. And you think their productivity would tank, right? But the exact opposite happened. The constraint of having less time forced everyone to get real about what was important. All the non-essential meetings, the endless email back and forths, the busy work, it all just disappeared. They focused only on the deep, essential tasks and got just as much done in 4 days as they had in 5.
So we've got the 4 rules, right? But this is where Newport really brings it home. This whole idea is about so much more than just getting more stuff done. It's really a philosophy for living a better, more meaningful life.
I love this story about the early days of Microsoft. Paul Allen was a genius, his mind sparking with a million different ideas. But Bill Gates was an obsessor. When they were coding their first big piece of software, he would work with such insane focus that he'd literally fall asleep on the keyboard, wake up a few hours later, and just pick up right where he left off. That kind of deep, obsessive focus is what builds empires.
And this is the ultimate point. A deep life isn't just about being successful. It's about the deep human satisfaction you get from taking your skills and pushing them to their limit to create something of real value. It's about building a life of meaning and purpose, not just a life of notifications and distractions.
So, the final question is really for you. We live in a world that is constantly trying to pull us into the shallow end of the pool. Choosing to cultivate a life of deep work, of focus, it's a rebellious act. But as Newport shows us, it's also the clearest path to doing work that matters and building a life you can be proud of. The choice is yours to make.